sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Because interesting, I'll tell you why it's a good topic when we get into it.
Okay. Hey, I'm Obi, that's Ed, and we are Drinking from the Garden Hose, your favorite podcast. We are beginning our third season. We're very excited about it, heading into Memorial Day weekend. Ed, how are you?
Doing great, Obi. Couple things. I didn't know there were seasons in podcasts. And the only way I knew there were seasons in podcasts is because on the last episode, you put in the description that it was the season finale. I didn't even know it was the season finale, but that does mean that we are starting season 3 since we ended season 2 last episode. So that's what I'm thinking. I didn't know there were seasons in podcasts.
Well, seasons, years, I don't know. We don't vacation it, right? Because whenever we have a vacation coming up, we work the podcast around it because we go every other week. It would probably be more noticeable if we did a weekly as opposed to a bi-weekly podcast. But our fans love us, and they're keeping track, and they know we're going on season 3 now. They're very excited.
I think for the last 2 weeks, they've probably waited with bated breath. Is that how it goes? Waiting with bated breath.
Yes.
To see what we're going to talk about. Because we didn't really leave it as a cliffhanger, I don't think, right? Like, there was no Dallas. This wasn't Dallas. No one was asking for the last 2 weeks who shot JR on our podcast, at least. But anyway, that's what I'm thinking. I'm also thinking one other thing. Is I saw this, the TikToks. I don't do the TikTok, but I do Instagram. And what's great about Instagram is TikTok, and this is kind of funny because the cool TikToks from like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago are on Instagram as Reels today, right? So I'm like
right.
2.5 weeks behind TikTok, I guess.
As you should be because you're old.
Yeah. So I don't do the TikTok. But there's this guy. He's a good-looking guy. Apparently, he doesn't have his shirt on, and he wears a beanie cap. And I think he makes fun of Gen Xers because he always asks provocative questions. And the provocative question that he asked the other day was, all this talk, I think it's very apropos, especially as we kick off season 3 of Drinking from the Garden Hose, is I always see Gen Xers talking about drinking from the garden hose. You guys didn't have sinks to drink out of? Like, really? Like, this guy goes viral with a stupid-ass question like that. But he doesn't go viral. He actually goes viral because somebody answers it.
Yes, that's the one I saw.
Right, and the answer is, you freaking lazy millennials, we get our asses outside back in the day. You ever hear about it? We used to get sunburned. We weren't allowed back in for 6 hours, so you had to drink somewhere. You had to drink from the garden hose. You saw that one too?
I saw the response I saw didn't mention sunburn, but it basically was we weren't allowed inside. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't even know what a goddamn toilet is.
Yeah. You're lucky the name of our show isn't Shitting in the Woods.
Exactly. See, we had a choice, Obi. See, this was actually been a 3-season cliffhanger. People always probably wondered why we did Drinking from the Garden Hose. Nobody knew what the alternative was.
That's right. That was right. We came down to 2 choices. And it was right after the pandemic. Toilet paper was hard to get, so we just went with Drinking from the Garden Hose.
And we figured outhouses would probably date us, and we figured garden hoses. People still have garden hoses.
Yeah.
They just don't drink from them because apparently you can die. We're still alive. How are we still alive? Anyway, I digress.
The rust and the iron was good for us, but nobody wants to talk about that.
There is one thing about drinking from a garden hose that should have clued me in when I was a young kid that I probably shouldn't drink from the garden hose. Is when I used to go camping, my grandfather, he had this really cool trick he would do in the campfire for the grandkids. He would take a piece of like copper pipe, like a small piece of copper pipe, and then he would cut a piece of garden hose that was the same size as that garden pipe or that copper pipe. And he would put the copper pipe inside the garden hose, right?
Right.
And then he would throw that, and let's say it's 2 inches long. He would throw that in the campfire, and it would make like a rainbow of colors. And like, we thought it was awesome. Looking back on it, the rainbow of colors must have come from all the chemicals that were in the hose.
Well, I'm not going to go down a chemistry path, but just because something has bad chemicals in it doesn't mean that the water throwing through it is going to make you sick, and we can go all over that.
Well,
And
I agree, but my point is that I did drink out of that, and I am still alive for season 3 of Drinking from the Garden Hose. So be that as it may, but now you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they actually sell like color changing flames. It's like a little packet that probably has chemicals in it as well, but it's not a garden hose, and you can throw it in your fire.
I love them. They're great.
So you have them. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. So you can't put them in the fire till the s'mores are done. But as soon as the s'mores are done, they go right in the fire.
So that's the other thing. I think we were cooking s'mores over top of that garden hose and the copper pipe. I mean, it was the 70s.
Cooking with the garden hose, that's a different issue.
It was the 70s. You could do that. It was no big deal,
Right. Grandpa knew best.
All right, so you have the flame maker things, the color. Yeah. You know what? So you know what I'm talking about. So this brings me to another point that I think my family has gotten ripped off for 2 amazing inventions that were dirt broke over. So I think my grandfather created the color flames. He obviously got no money for it and probably killed us all at some point with the chemicals. And you don't know this, Obi, but I invented the fanny pack.
You made fun of me when I used a fanny pack. Now I want to hear about how you invented a fanny pack.
Yeah, of course. The reason I make fun of people, what people don't understand, this is human psychology. The reason I make fun of fanny packs so viciously is because I'm pissed that I got screwed out of the royalty. So when I was probably like 12 years old, I would ride my bike up to the IBM Country Club, which was, it is what it sounds like. It's a country. There was indoor basketball courts, fitness center, there was a cafeteria there was an outdoor pool, tennis courts, golf course, baseball fields. I mean, this was it, right? You could go to summer camp there. This was awesome. So I would ride my bike up there in the morning, and I would stay all day, and I'd ride my bike home. What I realized is, you need to bring gear. If you're going to swim in the pool, you're taking notes. This is not good. But when you're going to swim and do stuff, you need to change your clothes and stuff. So I needed a bag, but I was riding my bike. So I had this duffel bag that was just bulky. I couldn't really carry the duffel bag. And then I had my dad's old army belt, like a canvas belt. So I went to my grandmother and I said, "Look, could we take this duffel bag and maybe cut it in half and then sew it up?" Because it had these 2 handles on it. She's like, "Yeah, we could do that." So she did that. She sewed it up for me. So I had this now smaller, like nylon duffel bag with 2 nylon handles that I took this army belt and I put through and I put it around my waist. And I rode my bike with this damn thing up to the IBM Country Club across main highways. And people saw my ass riding up there every day. And somebody stole my idea and made a fanny pack out of it.
Well,
by the way, it was a New York Jets duffel bag that I cut in half for that.
If it makes you feel any better, I invented Uber.
Oh, I want to know how you invented Uber.
I wrote it down. I came up with the idea. I literally wrote it down on a pad.
Just because you were driving your kids all over the place, don't make you Uber. No, because otherwise my parents invented Uber.
No, that's a carpool. I invented the idea. Said you can call, get people to, as opposed to a taxi. It should be on your phone. And I will say I've gone one step further, which is where I know Uber is heading. Is when the self-driving cars come, then there's no people in there, and the cars can not only pick you up but also map out the best way to either pick somebody else up or just drop you off and get to the next person.
So you have this written down, Obi?
Yeah, I wrote it down on a Post-it note. Now, I'm not. Nobody saw it. Who could have stolen it?
Do you still have the Post-it note?
No, I do not still have the Post-it note.
Obi, that would, because we could put that in a museum or something. Like the guy who invented Uber and got $0 for it. That would be awesome. We could auction that shit off. People would probably pay like millions of dollars to Sotheby's, which would take all the money, and you'd still get nothing.
That's right. For the authentic non-Uber, for the authentic Uber idea that didn't work, that didn't go through.
You know what's hilarious about that I just told you I invented something and you did too? I have this aunt who apparently has invented everything that you see on TV sold by Hasbro. Like, she's invented all the games. Just never got them to market, and Hasbro did. And well, I shit you not. She invented this game. This is hilarious. She invented this game, and I love her, by the way. She invented this game that when we go to, she lives with my cousin. Anyway, so when we go to my cousin's house for New Year's Eve, which we have, it's up in the Boston area. We've done this before COVID. We did it for like 15 straight years. When we would go up there, we would have to play this board game that she invented, but still hadn't gotten to market. So it's like with, I don't know, it's hilarious. But we had a tournament every New Year's Eve.
Okay, and it hasn't gotten to market yet, or is it now called?
It's never going to go to market. But the point is, she makes us play it every New Year's Eve, and we go along with it. It's hilarious.
Oh, it's a good game. It's anti-ams.
And meanwhile, I just told that joke for about three listeners, but they're going to get a kick out of that one.
They're going to love that one. So
we went in a completely different direction than I told you were, which was awesome.
Right. We're over here. We're supposed to be over there.
What people don't know is we had a little. Normally we don't do this. Normally we just fly by the seat of our pants, as if you couldn't tell. But tonight I even said, Obi, let's slow down. Let's figure out what we're talking about. And I completely went in a different direction. And by the way, I didn't even know I was going to do it. It's not like I set you up, Obi.
I know. I mean, you're like, wait, you have no feedback to discuss? I'm like, well, we just, I know. The one guy got back to us about the Go-Go's. We did that. I don't know if it's worth the whole topic. And then you're like, what about, you didn't come up with any topics? And I go, I have a topic, and I'm not going to mention that topic yet. It's a worthwhile topic. We'll get to it in another episode.
Maybe season 4 kickoff at the rate we're going.
When we reached the Delgrams in season 3.
Yeah. So what we did talk about, though, Obi, because I found this out interesting, because we've been doing 2 seasons, as we talked about already, and we've talked about music a bunch. And I was very shocked to see earlier this week when Tina Turner passed away, which, it's amazing as a full-blooded male. I can't say I was a Tina Turner fan, but I can say this. Back in the 80s, she was talented. I mean, when she came on MTV, that was some good stuff. I mean, she was a performer, and then you find out later that in the 80s, we found out, like, in the 60s she did shit, which was crazy, because in the 80s, the 60s were so far ago, right?
Right.
And now we're in 2023, and when somebody says 2003, I don't go, oh my God, that was like ancient, right? So just interesting how that works. But so Tina Turner passed away. I had actually thought when it happened, it hit me a little bit. But you posted something on social media that just shocked me, that was your first concert, Obi, and we had never discussed that. So I just want to hear a little bit about that and talk a little bit about first concerts, because I think I got a story about first concerts, and I just think it's really eye-opening for people when you talk about that.
So yeah, this was based on my memory, and I double-checked it. I think it was 1985. It was, I believe that is the Private Dancer tour, but I remember
has to be Private Dance.
Yeah, I remember more succinctly knowing about Tina Turner's tour because she had just been in Thunderdome.
Mad Max, which is crazy. There's a lot of references to that on this social media these days because she passed.
Yes. So we were up in upstate New York, and she was performing at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. I don't know if you ever went further north from home to get there, but that's where she was. It's an outdoor venue, and I did enjoy Tina Turner. Obviously, my mother loved Tina Turner, and my father and brother were there too. It wasn't just my mom. By the way, happy birthday, Mom. I haven't wished her a happy birthday yet, and it's Ed's fault because I was planning on doing it after we did this, and Ed was extremely late. Congratulations to Sam, though. Congratulations, Sam.
I am so sorry, Mrs. Spencer, that Obi was taken away from your birthday. The better question we should have, Mrs. Spencer, is why was Obi waiting until 8 o'clock at night to wish you a happy birthday when he could have done it, I don't know, in the 17 hours leading up to that time?
Because that's when I call my mother. That's
okay. That. I mean, who am I to judge? I was just asking the question.
Let's get back to the story. It's Ed's fault let's get back to the story.
Everything's my fault. I'm a bully, and it's my fault.
Yes. So we went to the Performing Arts Center, and the two things I remember most about it is somebody else came on stage, probably during Proud Mary, but for some reason, in my mind, the person who was on stage, and it probably wasn't, it was Saratoga Performing Arts Center, it was Mick Jagger. I don't believe it truly was Mick Jagger, but in my mind, it's always been it was Mick Jagger who joined her on stage.
Well, listen, Obi, it could have happened. I doubt it, but it could have happened because I don't think he toured with her. But there is that iconic performance the two of them put together. I mean, when you think of Tina Turner, and if like as you get older, like we do, like there's a couple things that come to mind. One is Ike Turner, right?
Right.
That's one. The second is that Mick Jagger performance, and the other is, holy shit, she was in her 40s wearing those outfits.
Yeah, those are the things that come to mind, and it is exactly because of that Mick Jagger performance that I thought it was Mick my whole life. But I have no real reason to believe it was Mick. It was probably somebody else, but the crowd went crazy when this person came on. So maybe it was somebody of minor fame. I don't think it was Mick. But
here's the question. My recollection, I should Google this, but my recollection is Mick and Tina did a Dancing in the Streets duet.
Yeah, and my recollection
not
is
a Proud Mary duet, which by the way, her pipes on that song just killed it. Proud Mary is amazing by Tina Turner.
Hey Ed, it could have been Dancing in the Streets that he came on. Like I'm a young kid, 85, and I'm 11 years old. So, I just remember somebody coming on stage and I know how memory works now and I'm older, and I put together that it was Mick Jagger on Proud Mary. It was probably like Tom Petty. Could
have been David Bowie. You never know.
It could have been anybody. Could have been anybody. But and then we got lost when we were leaving the Performing Arts Center to get back to the car. We couldn't figure out where we had parked our car, and it just felt like walking miles and miles and miles over rolling grass to find our car, which I think probably we found much more easier again than my memory. But it was my first concert, which led to many, many, many more concerts, including some other ones at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center, which is a nice outdoor venue.
So I'm actually going to Saratoga this summer. I'm going to see Guns N' Roses play there, September 1st. So
all right,
I got seats inside. I don't want to deal with that long crap, but I've never been there though. I've never been to a concert there. Believe it or not, I mean it's relatively close to where I grew up, but never made it there. So Obi, the reason I wanted to go with first concerts tonight because I was really surprised by your post about Tina Turner the other day, which again I think is a great story, but B, I had a staff meeting at work last week, and my boss always does this. He always does an icebreaker at the beginning of staff meetings, like, so it's springtime. What are you most looking forward to this spring? And we go around the table, and I'm most looking forward to the freaking flowers or whatever. And somebody's like, well, I'm having a grandkid this spring. Like that's what people brag about. Anyway, so is my meeting, and I'm like, you know what? I've never done the icebreaker, but we're going to do an icebreaker. I want to know. I had like 13 senior staff like around the table with me. I want to know what these people's first concert was, because I think that can tell a lot about somebody. Like, what were you into back in the day? And you remember and at this meeting, I had like probably like 28-year-olds and 65-year-olds, right? So it was really funny to hear the differences, right? And it was one of the most fun parts of a meeting I've had at work in a long time because of two main reasons. One, our controller, and if anybody knows a controller in life, I'm not talking about a controller, CONTRO. I'm talking about a comptroller, COMPT, right? Somebody deals with the money and makes sure it all looks good on the P&L. They're pretty straight-laced. When it came to his turn, and this guy's he's a Gen Xer. He drops his first concert was Ice-T and Body Count.
Nice. Nice.
And I'm like, damn, cop killer. Like, I never saw that coming. So that was one that like blew my mind. And another was again accountants, right? Our CFO again, like, and I've always and my CFO gets annoyed when I say this because I always tell her, "Yeah, you're an accountant, you're no fun." And she gets like really annoyed, like not even annoyed. I think she gets downright offended. So I stopped saying it. But she says in front of the CEOs in the room and there's other people. She said, "Oh, my first concert was Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they came out wearing only socks."
Yes, they did.
And I said, and they weren't on their feet. To which the 65-year-old, who is our HR director, gave a very nervous laugh.
Well, wait a second. There's nothing to be offended there.
Okay. So anyway, that's why I wanted to go first concerts because I had that experience. We went around. There's some others that like you weren't surprised about, and there's some you were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe."
There's a guy who hasn't taken off a tie-dye shirt in 6 years, and he said his first concert was the Grateful Dead. And then there was a guy with hair down to his ass, straight.
There was definitely a Grateful Dead, and we're in Jersey, so there was definitely a Bruce Springsteen, right? Yeah. Then there's the younger group is always like, "You probably never heard of these people before," and then they're right, I never heard of them before, right? So it was, and then you always have it's really funny. You always have the people who you could tell are really embarrassed by who their first concert was because they always start off with like, "Oh, well, I don't go to a lot of concerts, but this was my first concert," and then they give you like,
or I was a kid. My parents took me Hanson.
Yeah, nobody said that. Like, but like I had one person's like, this is so funny. So after the Red Hot Chili Peppers went with the socks, right? Somebody else's like first concert, I swear to God, was Belinda Carlisle, right? And they're like, which has a tie in two ways here. One, it ties back to my Go-Go's for the last 2 weeks. But the other, so I was like, that's awesome. That like they were embarrassed by it. I'm thinking to myself, two things went through my head right away. And they said Belinda Carlisle and embarrassed. First thing was Playboy. Second was Go-Go's are awesome. So why are you embarrassed? Well, Belinda Carlisle was in Playboy, and this guy's like, that's why you went, dude.
Yeah.
Because looking at his age, you went to that concert because she was on the Playboy tour.
Right. That's right. That's it. It's okay, man.
So I knew that. Anyway, so that's why we went there. So my first concert, because I got to tell you this, because everyone's like, "Oh, I just got out of the whole thing." I went to the Kinks. The Kinks were a 60s band as well, but I saw the Kinks not in the 60s. I saw them in the 80s. But here's the crazy thing about that concert. By the way, I think the Kinks are good. It was a good rock and roll show. It was great. Here's what I found crazy about that. Looking back on it now with teenagers, and Obi, I don't know, you might be a more lenient parent, or maybe not. I was 15 years old. I went to that concert with a buddy, and that was it. No parental supervision. The two of us went to the concert. We got dropped off out. We couldn't drive. We were 50. We got dropped off outside. We went in all on our own, stayed the whole show, came out all on our own, lived, got in a car, and went home. I can't imagine if I would have let my 15-year-old kid go to a concert all by themselves.
I don't know. I can't attest to that. I know I went to my first solo concert, AC/DC, about 15. I think I was a freshman in high school, maybe a sophomore. My friend came and said, "We're going to go see AC/DC. You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right." And he bought the tickets, and it was just the two of us. And the same thing. Someone dropped us off. Someone picked us up. And I know my oldest, his first concert that he went to alone was Billy Joel, and we bought him tickets for high school graduation.
All right, so that wasn't 15.
No.
So 15 I went 18. Alone. 15 I went alone. 16 I went to another Kinks show. The next year they came around again. I guess we were such a great crowd in Poughkeepsie, New York. They had to come back for the 2,000 people over there. And then I distinctly remember as a 17-year-old, I drove an hour to Albany, New York to see Motley Crue. Again, with just a buddy. Drove my own car, or my parents' car. I can't even imagine letting my kid take my car an hour away with their friend to a concert. But anyway, my parents did it. And then I went to New York City. I took a train to New York City to see Eric Clapton and Elton John play at Madison Square Garden with just three other friends. Just four teenagers under 18 going to Madison Square Garden. And I just can't believe, and I guess I guess the reason I'm thinking I can't believe my parents let me go is when going back to that 15-year-old concert with the Kinks, there was this kid sitting behind me. I don't know how old he was, but he's like, "Yo, you want some pop?" And me and my buddy are like, "No." He's like, "Why not?" We're like, that's not good for you. We're I swear to God, this is what we said to him. That's not good for you. We're athletes. We don't do that stuff. He goes, "What do you mean athletes? What do you do?" We're like, "We play baseball." He goes, "Oh shit, man, you'll hit 400. Take a hit of this." Needless to say, I only played JV baseball. Never made varsity. So you can imagine what I did with that marijuana that night. I did not take that hit. I could have been freaking Mike Trout if I only listened to that kid.
Would have, should have, could have.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, there's predators everywhere that want to give you a hit.
Yeah, right. No, I I only have one other concert question. Then we could probably wrap this up. We had a concert conversation earlier about a concert you have to go to. I think
oh
it's
shit,
soon.
yeah. Oh, it's really soon. It's like 3 weeks away. Ed Sheeran.
Yes, the plus minus equals times tour or whatever.
Oh my god, and Obi. It seems so far away when I bought those tickets, and I was a little nervous about it.
Right.
But as it gets closer, I get more nervous about it, and I'm going to tell you why. Ed Sheeran was on Howard Stern, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Yeah. The guy's very talented, by the way. Very talented, great interview, whatever. Played his music. There's no doubt he's a talented musician. But he was basically bragging about that it's just him and his acoustic guitar on stage during his concert. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be at MetLife Stadium with 60,000 people watching a guy with an acoustic guitar. Like, how can I get jazzed up for that?
So I will tell you, I have been to arena shows, not full stadium shows, where the band has done a set with just an acoustic guitar, and it has been incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the type of show that I'm going to have earplugs because I'm taking 5 8th grade girls with me, and I'm sure there's a lot of other 8th grade girls in the crowd. So I'm bringing earplugs just for the sanity. I think it's going to be the type of show, versus the Metallica and Guns N' Roses shows. I'm going to go for myself later. That I'm just going to sit there and I think appreciate good music as opposed to get like all into it and get excited and like.
Are you prepping yourself by putting some Ed Sheeran on the old iPod, which I know you don't really use?
No, I think I want to be surprised.
Okay.
I don't know. I so am not looking forward to the music, Obi. Like I'm like the new Metallica album came out, so I'm like listening to that because I'm going to see them and I know they're gonna play. Like just like most people do when they're gonna go to like I'm prepping myself. Ed Sheeran, I'm not prepping myself at all.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I hope it doesn't suck. The charm is that we suck. I'm Obi. That said, welcome to season 3. See you next time on Drinking from the Garden Hose.